Hi, I'm Les Moreland. I'm the current commander, AMVETS Post 2006 here in Leesburg, Florida. And we're a proud sponsor of Central Florida Salute on the YouTube channel. I'd like to have you check us out on our Facebook page or whatever. Our address is 500 North Canal Street in Leesburg, Florida. To all you veterans out there, come by and see us. We salute you for your service and thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I'm your host, Bob Peters, and I have with me two guests, Colonel Todd Hopkins and used to be Colonel Rick Basinger. He's retired from the Army National Guard, and you are now the Colonel of the Army National Guard, but you're not here representing the National Guard per se. You're here to represent the Florida
Florida National Guard Foundation.
Foundation. Yes, and later on, we're going to introduce you some folks. But right now, I have seen your resume, and I've talked with Rick quite a bit. He's always very up on you, talking about you all the time on the radio, and what the Guard has done.
I promise I don't pay him a lot.
Him?
That's right.
He should be giving you money. But anyway. I wanted to talk about the evolution of the Guard. You know, Rick was in during one period of time, and now you're in. And I remember the Guard. I was not in the Guard, but I remember what the Guard did when I was in.
Yes, sir.
And it has changed quite a bit, has it not?
It absolutely has. Yes, sir.
And do you want to make a comment how it's changed? How do you?
Well, just briefly, I enlisted in the Florida National Guard in June of 1970, and at the time, coming out of World War II, the National Guard was very instrumental in the actions overseas, and but little recognition is given to them about what they did. So, but after that time, the National Guard they used to drill at night, one night a week, and that was about it. When I got in 1970, we were not the best equipped. I enlisted in the Leesburg unit, which was transportation. Our vehicles were refurbished Korean War vehicles. Our weapons were M14s. When I went to basic training, of course, we took the M16 qualification, but then one Saturday morning, they loaded up all the National Guard soldiers to go out and to familiarize with the M14 because we didn't have M16s. When I got back to Leesburg, fortunately, we got M16s. But anyway, our equipment wasn't the greatest. Our training was not really supported. For example, basically the only thing I went to is basic training, AIT, and that was pretty much it until I became an officer and went off to, we didn't have access to all the schools, air assault, Pathfinder, and all this kind of stuff. So we were not, we lacked training support, money support. Gradually that started picking up, and we started getting training visits from the 193rd out of Panama. That was really our connections. Things got much better. We got a lot of support. I think I mentioned when I got back from basic, we got M16s and we were able to assemble them for the unit. Nobody else knew how to use an M16. So anyway, I got to see it improve, but basically my time in the Guard was what most people think about the Guard. We did the Republican and Democrat conventions in Miami, Hurricane Andrew, the Miami riots, and several other hurricanes. That's probably mainly what we did. but gradually it picked up speed, almost like somebody could see in the future what the Guard was going to have to do. I went to a commander's pre-command course for battalion command, which means I was a major at the time, and really didn't get the recognition or even the interchange with the other attendees from the active services. It's like we were over here. And then that really started changing. We started going to our annual training in Panama, and then also we started going to Fort Leavenworth for training on operations, things like that. And it really picked up speed up to the point where 9/11 happened. And then I had both son-in-laws that were in the Guard at the time. So
Yeah.
that's when it really took
You
off.
should mention this is your son-in-law.
This is my son-in-law.
And he's just been promoted to colonel.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
He's full-time National Guard.
Yes.
You know, because everybody thinks of the National Guard as somebody that comes in on weekends and this and that. But and nowadays, when I learned a lot from your father-in-law, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I
But
remember
anyway,
that.
he's a dear friend of mine, and we tease each other all the time. But you get deployed nowadays, and I have your bio here, and it's very, very impressive. Todd Hopkins, you've been a military career with the Army National Guard Alpha Company, 22nd Battalion, 124th Infantry of Leesburg. In July of '99, received a commission as second lieutenant, Florida officer candidate school in 2001. Currently director of human resources, excuse me, for the Florida National Guard. You have been all around from what I read on your bio. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? In the first place, how did you meet him? That day?
It's a great story. So I married the colonel's daughter before I knew what a colonel was. So we, Stacy, his daughter, and my wife got married right out of school and moved back to Central Florida. And I was looking for an opportunity to, a way to pay for more education. Went to his battalion change of command as he was leaving the 3rd Battalion on the 124th Infantry Battalion Command, and started having a couple questions. Was curious about benefits and commitments, etc. He didn't answer but one or two, and then said, "You know what? This is a decision that you and Stacy are going to have to make this together. Here's the number of a recruiter. Whatever you decide, you have my blessing." And he stayed out of it. To this day, he's been my biggest, with the exception of Stacy, of course, has been one of my biggest fans and supporters. My career has gone remarkably well. So.
And I wish I could take credit for it now.
No, your wife could, but not you.
That's
I'd give your wife all the credit. Yeah. So tell us about when you first went in, and take us to the history, because
okay.
you know I was floored when I found out that you guys, the Guard nowadays, is all over the place.
Yes, sir.
You know, when I was in, you never left the states, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Guard is under the governor of each state. And then I guess the president can put them all together if he wants. How does that work?
Okay, so a couple of things. The Florida National Guard is organized under U.S. Code Title 32, which authorizes governors to maintain a militia. There are 54 National Guards for each of the states and territories within the United States. And then the federal government has the authority under U.S. Code Title 10 to activate the National Guard for federal response. To kind of caveat or to pick up the story from where Rick left off, when I enlisted in '99, I joined my father-in-law's National Guard, one that was a strategic reserve, one that was available in case of emergency or for domestic response. That changed significantly after 9/11. When 9/11 occurred, we immediately were mobilized for Noble Eagle, which was the security at the airports around the country until the TSA was established. And then for Operation Iraqi Freedom, the Florida National Guard specifically was the first National Guard brigade. The 53rd Infantry Brigade was the first National Guard brigade mobilized since World War II for combat. And that occurred because the Army had drawn down at the time, and we're now fighting two wars, one between Afghanistan and another that was about to kick off with Iraq. Since then, the National Guard as a whole has moved from a strategic reserve to an operational reserve, meaning instead of we're going to hold this in case there's a need for of strategic importance, we need to maintain something that is operationally ready at any given time. And so at this point, all of our equipment, training, maintenance, education, etc., is on par with our active duty counterparts. It is truly a whole of military action that takes place whenever the United States moves or deploys into any theater. So it's changed significantly. So when he talks about trips to Panama and riots, etc., I'm blessed. I've not had to deal directly with riots, although I was involved in some of the stuff in South Florida a couple of years ago. But we do some overseas training. I got an opportunity to support the European Deterrence Initiative over in Albania in 22 before deploying to Ukraine. Personally, I deployed 4 times, one to Iraq, one to Kuwait, one to Djibouti in Africa, and then the most recent deployment to Ukraine, where we spent a few months training Ukrainians in Ukraine just before the war started, and then moved to Germany and trained them there.
Yeah, you were over there in that one for about, what, 10 months, you
Yes,
say?
yes, sir, right at 10 months.
Yeah, and I was looking at your resume. You are highly educated. You've gone to all kinds of schooling. You have several degrees, and you have the Bronze Star, Notorious.
Notorious. Yes, that's the one.
Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Joint Achievement Medals, Army Reserve Component. It goes on and on and on and on. Gulf War Terrorism Medal, Air Force's Service Medal, Humanitarian Service Medal. Oh man, I could read it. You know, you're highly decorated. You went to the war school, and what do you do now?
So first off, all of those things. I'm a blessed man. I've had amazing opportunities throughout the last 23 years with the service. It's been a great career. At this point, I am the Director of Human Resources for the Florida National Guard. I'm going to start a little bit. I'm going to back up a step and talk about how I got where I am. When I enlisted in the Guard in '99, I had intended to stay a traditional guardsman, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, which is the lie we tell everybody for how much time they'll actually spend serving in the Guard. And then planned to stay for 6 or 7 years to get my degree and then walk away. That all changed with 9/11, and had an opportunity in 2004 to become an active guardsman. And since I've been on active duty with the Florida National Guard ever since. There are 10,000 Florida soldiers that are in the Army National Guard and 2,000 Florida airmen that are in the Air National Guards, comprising the entire Florida National Guard of 12,000 soldiers and airmen. Of that 12,000, approximately 2,000 of them are full-time employees, whether that is active Guard and Reserve, which is what I am, or U.S. Code Title 32 federal technician, or Title 5 employee, which is a civilian employee. And I am the Director of Human Resources that supports staffing, benefits and services, etc., for those 2,000 employees.
Yeah, a big portion of the Guard are like, they have their own jobs and everything, and they do the weekend, but you're a full-time
That's
employed with the Army National Guard, and you're in charge of the helping out your foundation.
Okay,
So you want to talk about the
I
foundation?
would love to. So I had the distinct pleasure of working as on the executive committee for the Florida National Guard Foundation from 2017 to the beginning of 2022, right until before we deployed. The foundation was originally established in 1983 as a historical society intent on preserving the history of the Florida National Guard. There's a number of different projects and such that they were involved in until after 9/11 occurred, when it became there was a Florida state statute that said that organizations could not receive that National Guardsmen couldn't receive grants or donations or support from large 501c3 organizations in case of an emergency or situation. That was changed in 2004, I believe, when the Florida National Guard Foundation received authorization to support soldiers directly, allowing it to have really two missions, if you will. One's historical, which has taken a backseat to its primary mission at this point, which is to serve the currently serving and some of the retirees of the Florida National Guard. The way that we go about doing that is through, obviously through the donations that we receive. I would like to mention it's a 501c3 company or organization. There are no paid employees, almost no overhead whatsoever, with the exception of some minor operational costs. Almost all of the donations go directly to service members in case of an act of God or guard, is what we call it. Should a service member be deployed and a family need, say a hurricane comes through and they need assistance with roofs or major appliances or fences, etc., those kinds of things, we do that on the regular, if you will. Those are easy. Some of them have been very unique. We've had an opportunity to support service members that are very young, that don't have insurance, etc., or have no way to support emergencies within their own families. We've transported deceased family members from Puerto Rico back to the States for burial. We assisted a young lady who was a very young soldier whose father, she witnessed her father's murder, and he had no health and no life insurance, and so we assisted in burying him and taking care of that young lady in that process. She went on to have a great career within the Florida National Guard.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I give you guys a lot of credit. So I was telling you before we were on the radio show, I was telling you about my company I worked for at the time, Northeast Utilities. And this is right after the towers went down and the guards started getting called up and this and that. And I went to our CEO, Mike Morris was his name, and he also, he was in the Guard at one time. I really don't know much about it. I and a friend of mine who were a part of a veterans committee that we had within the company went over to him and we said, hey, listen, we have employees here that are going to be called up for whatever. As it turned out, one of them was called up for security at the Olympics. And his boss told him he wasn't going to pay him. So when I talked to the CEO, he said, oh, we're going to make up the difference. So there are corporations out there that do make up the difference, but there are a lot of guards people who are self-employed.
Yes, sir.
And what do you do for them?
So the legally, the Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act requires organizations, businesses who employ guardsmen to offer equal opportunity to those service members. They can't discriminate because of their military service. So should a guardsman be called to active duty and go and do that duty and in return, they are required, the business is required to give them their position back, or a like position at equal pay. For the most part, that's not a significant issue anymore. That's a generally understood practice. In rare occasions, there are businesses that don't treat guardsmen fairly, and there's an organization called the Employee Support of Guard and Reserve that represents guardsmen in that process. More importantly, though, the ESGR does exactly the opposite of that. They recognize those businesses that take good care of their soldiers and airmen, etc. In the case of a military deployment. I had an opportunity a couple of years ago, about 20 years ago, I can't believe it's that long, to nominate and present an Employee Support of Guard and Reserve award to the United Southern Bank that I worked for before becoming an active guardsman.
All right, what about the guy who's a carpenter or plumber, has his own business?
That creates another problem. So it is a commitment with respect to the National Guard, and once they're called, there's no. It's not optional. It's you are ordered to active duty.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there have been some that have had to fold businesses. There are some that have had to pull out of schools, etc. And we do the best that we can to remain as flexible as possible with those service members. But then there are times that you need organizations like the Florida National Guard Foundation to come in and assist those individuals should a significant emergency take place that they are not able to cover.
So today we're here because we have some members of our Veterans Committee that I want you to meet.
Yes, sir.
Because our Veterans Committee donated $2,000 to the foundation. And we're very proud of that. And we do appreciate everything that the Guard does nowadays. So that money will help out a family that has a problem, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. To begin with, to those on your committee and the Eagles here, I can't thank you enough for recognizing the sacrifice that is made by your local guardsmen. And when we say local, I mean we're talking Leesburg, Eustis, Sanford, Orlando, Ocala. They all make up the companies of 2nd and 124th Infantry here in Central Florida. That is a part of the 53rd Infantry Brigade headquartered in Tampa. These are your local guardsmen, and this is who you're supporting with that donation. I can't thank you enough.
Well, we have some very good people here. I'm going to introduce you to them in a little bit, you know. But it's kind of ironic that my very first show was at the Armory in Leesburg when you guys were being deployed, you know, and that's 13 years ago. And now we're doing a YouTube show, and our first one of our first show this year, starting our 4th year with Central Florida Salute YouTube. We got the Guards folks,
There you go.
you know.
And we appreciate it. We
And funny
appreciate
enough,
it.
back to Leesburg. I enlisted in the Guard in Leesburg. I was a platoon leader in Leesburg. I've spent quite a bit of time in that armory.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you up to nowadays? Where are you working out of?
So I work out of St. Augustine. I've mentioned it a couple times. I'm a blessed man. Military was not what I had set out to do in life, but it's definitely where God has pointed me. Once I became an active guardsman, I had a couple of goals. One was I thought it'd be cool to be a battalion commander. I thought it'd be cool to make lieutenant colonel. Would love to make 20 years worth of active federal service and live and work in St. Augustine. And I have been able to, God has blessed me with each of those. And at this point in my career, as you mentioned, I was just recently selected and promoted to colonel. And it's just icing on the cake at this point. And I'll stay until they kick me out.
What is the green and black belt?
Oh, this
Do I
my
have to worry about you hitting me or something?
No, sir. No, sir. That is a designation as part of the Lean Six Sigma program. A cool opportunities. Back to what Rick was talking about in terms of training and education. I had an opportunity a few years ago to go to a Lean Six Sigma Green and Black Belt course where we learned how to analyze problems and processes to improve efficiency and resiliency for systems, etc. So it has served me. And it's funny you brought that up. I spent 2 hours with my team going through a process improvement class and working through some of the things that we do up in the Human Resources Office using those
I
tools.
see you with the Army War College,
Yes, sir.
Assault School, Defense Surgery course. This goes on and on and on and on. You know, it's very, very impressive. Thank you for what you do for our country, and I'm wishing you the best. Like I said before, I got our group here, which is Veterans Committee at Eagles 4273 in Okahumpka. I have 10 people on it. We're just 10 of us together on the committee. We all have the same vote. I talking on the radio a lot with your father-in-law, and he started telling me about what you guys do in the foundation. I came here and I asked Rick to come and talk to the committee. He did a short presentation, and I'm pleased to announce that we donated $2,000, and I'd like to take a break right now and introduce you to him.
I look forward to it.
All right.
All right.
All right, Colonel, this is part of the committee. They're not all here. Some of them had to work on other obligations, but I want you to meet these people. And I'm going to start with Father David. Father David, I'm going to hand you the microphone and you pass it down. You were a Navy vet, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, introduce yourself.
I'm Father David Randolph, a United States Navy veteran, and presently I now work in prisons, and I work with veterans who were honorably discharged and yet got in trouble with the law.
It's very nice to meet you. My name is Rita Coberly. I'm the auxiliary secretary here at the Eagles, and my husband, Bill Coberly, served 24 years in the Navy. He was a Seabee. So thank you. Thank you. Good to have you.
And I am Sandy Bach. I'm Vice President of the Auxiliary here. So glad that we could help you in your wonderful efforts that you are involved in. Our family is a Gold Star family. Our son Michael was killed in a battle in Afghanistan. Our youngest son David was also over there in Iraq and is now a proud policeman up by Raleigh, North Carolina. So that's our connection to the military.
Good afternoon, Colonel. My name is Lewis Butler, retired Air Force. Served a long time, and when I found out about exactly what your foundation does for the families, it really made me look and see what we actually need to do, not only as a committee here, but also to enhance other ones that are not veterans or whatever to support you. But welcome.
Thank you very much.
You know, he made a very good point. And if somebody wants to support, tell us how they do it.
Yes, sir. So the Florida National Guard Foundation has got a really long URL. However, it's easy to remember, the Florida National Guard Foundation.org. There's a statement in there about our history as well as the services that we provide. And if you'd like to make your donation, that's in there as well.
Okay, Colonel. I want to thank you for your service.
I want to thank all of you for the donation that you guys. Thank you. Thank you guys have made. And I promise that it will be used in the manner that you wish for it to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a few members that couldn't be here, but when your father-in-law talked to me about it, and I talked about these people, and they jumped right on it. We have a wonderful committee here. We sell these shirts, we sell these bracelets, and we do a 50-50, and any money we raise goes out to support veterans and veterans' causes. We don't keep a dime. So, but I think it's time to say goodbye. And you all know how I do it. If you're military, you salute like that. If you're not military, you go like that. So this is how we do it. To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. That's it, Colonel.
That's it. Thank you, Jim.